Hi, I am so excited to be a speaker today for Tanya Talks at the WCAPS Conference, bringing together global perspectives. And I want to thank you for joining me today. So, I don't know if some of you have noticed, but there's been a huge renaissance among a lot of women, especially women of color, that's happening right now. Among myself, many female colleagues, and close friends, we're making a lot of shifts and new transitions and becoming Renaissance women. We're starting new careers. We're moving to a new city or a country. We're becoming our own bosses and launching our own businesses. Or we're just taking time to figure out what our next steps are. We may have a full time role, but we're also pursuing our happiness while still remaining involved with our communities and personal relationships. So it's really important that we don't silo all these parts of ourselves because it's what makes us unique. I decided to do this talk because reflecting back on my personal and professional journey, there were many times I didn't show up for myself or as myself. I was more concerned about being judged by my appearance and the assumptions made about me. For several years, I juggled how to show up at the workplace. This included straightening my hair because I thought curly hair wasn't professional, putting my job first before my child, or neglecting my personal health. In the last couple of years, I realized that the best way to show up was to bring my whole authentic self. And by sharing my path today, I hope to encourage other women to show up as their whole self. I am a proud Latina originally from California. I am also a mother of a teen on the spectrum, and I'm also the eldest daughter of Central American immigrants. Both my parents immigrated from El Salvador several years ago to start a better life here in the United States. Growing up as the oldest daughter, I found myself being the first in many situations. And I realized that I've acquired many of my leadership skills through my lived experience. Yet I struggled with being a professional because I always wanted to be true to myself. I now recognize that my grit, my willingness to take on new challenges, and my ability to empathize with others are strengths that I've acquired because of my background. When mentoring others, I encourage them, don't gloss over your personal journey, especially if you are the first one in your family to make an achievement in this country. By sharing your story, you are expressing who you are at the core and what matters to you, which helps you move in the direction of companies, roles, and individuals that align with your values. Gaining new skills, time takes time, effort, and money. As a mom and head of household, I decided that I was going to go to graduate school and work full time. I really believed that this would increase my market value and help me earn more money. But when I began working in different work environments, I noted that many of my colleagues didn't have advanced degrees, but they did have an access to an extensive network. When I moved to New York several years ago, I began searching for new roles. And after getting so many rejections after applying to so many jobs online, I decided that I would do face to face networking. It was a bit intimidating because I didn't know anybody and I was usually the new person in the room. But eventually I began to see familiar faces who I decided to meet up for coffee and who genuinely wanted to give me advice. These folks eventually became my small network and have expanded into good friends and allies. These are the folks who I turn to when I'm dealing with work challenges or need help reaching my professional goals. To get where I'm at now, I had the support of my network. I am here to tell you today that you belong here and you are an expert in your field. Your value isn't defined by the bullet points in your job description. Also, you don't have to get to your next goal alone. Be willing to seek mentors and a network that can help you. As I mentioned before, I was also the first in many situations, and I had to learn to advocate for myself. And at times, this meant asking for help or direction. Especially in a new work environment, staying quiet wasn't going to help me. I've now learned that this type of communication is now called radical candor or honesty. This involves showing vulnerability. So, for example, admitting to your boss or coworkers that you're having a bad day is actually creating a safe space for your colleagues to also open up and share how they're doing. I don't know if you need to hear this, but you can be yourself at work, and that includes showing your feelings. For many years, I worried about the trope of being the fiery or loud Latina. So I did my best to manage my emotions at work. I wanted to ensure that my coworkers felt comfortable around me. But what about when your coworker or your manager makes you feel uncomfortable? A couple of years ago, that's the situation I was in. A manager stated that she felt my tone in a message was combative and she didn't feel safe. And this made me really upset. We were part of a small team and we needed to continue to work on projects together. So I couldn't just avoid her and I couldn't just sit there and let this happen. I realized it was necessary to have a face-to-face discussion. And during this discussion, I expressed how adjectives like combative are harmful to women of color. As difficult as that conversation was, it was important that my manager hear my concerns, that I was seen and that I was heard. Because when you're not, that is when you begin to doubt yourself. I also learned something very important from another woman of color in my network. One day we met up and she asked me during a meeting at work, if you are not in the room, is there someone else advocating for you? I had to really think about this and I realized I didn't really have a lot of advocates at work. My colleagues shared with me how important it was to get to know different colleagues in your organization, and not only to discuss work, but the things that matter to you. And also, what did you want to solve on a daily basis? What are the skills that you wanted to grow in? Let them get to know you as a person. After our conversation, I realized I needed to be more proactive in my career path. And I started carrying a work notebook where I jotted my ideas and also my weekly wins. And I continue to showcase my achievements. This includes getting to know my other colleagues that I'm working with and asking to collaborate on projects together. Speaking up during meetings and highlighting the projects that I'm working on, and also being honest when I need help. I'm also connecting with coworkers I trust. Every week, we have a coffee break where we check in and we support one another. Lastly, I'm also honest with my management. If there's something that I don't like or feel comfortable with, I bring that up. And I also have a say in the areas that I want to grow in. My professional journey, and I'm sure your professional journey as well, has been bumpy, but we're still standing. As a woman of color, I have to remind myself that I know what's best for me and how important it is to trust your judgment and decisions. This has allowed me to pitch my ideas, to ask for extensions on deadlines, to reduce my work hours, to be more involved as a parent, and also to take time off to recharge and rest. I think it's also important to reflect on your work week and continue to challenge yourself professionally. It's always good to start to ask yourself questions like, am I overextending myself at work, but neglecting other areas of my life? Does this project make me feel energized or deplete my energy? Do I feel stuck or limited in my professional growth? And more importantly, what are the areas that I want to grow in? Showing up as yourself, being honest with what you need is letting your colleagues and managers know that you know what's best for you. What matters to you is an important part of what motivates you and drives you to work every day. As Toni Morrison wrote, you are not the work you do, you are the person you are. Thank you so much. If you are interested, please connect with me on LinkedIn.